Hey, this is Arman Eckelbarger,
And I'm Frank Mills.
and we just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving, and we really appreciate you following the show and watching the show.
Everybody have a great holiday. Thanks for watching.
Hey, Arman here. Welcome to the NSP Nutrition Show, where we cover training, nutrition, supplementation strategies, and a whole lot more. So stand by. Hey, welcome to the NSP Nutrition Show. I'm Arman Eckelbarger.
And I am Frank Mills, and we have another great show for you today. Arm and I were going to be talking about why it's a good idea to get a hormone panel done, to get your blood work done, and also the benefits of taking iodine. So, Armin, why do you think it's a good idea to get a comprehensive hormone panel done? Because, when you and I first started talking, I got my blood work done and we found out a lot of interesting things, but you know, I thought that would be a good place to start. So what do you think?
Okay, so what I've learned over the past 10 years, I first had my first panel done,
Hmm.
is you know where you stand once you know how your hormone levels are, along with your other blood markers like your glucose and
Right.
your metabolic panel, your blood count, CBC panel, those kind of things. But when you get the complete picture of a lot of the main hormones, it kind of tells you where you are in the aging process and kind of helps explain some of the symptoms you may be having with the aging process and how you feel about yourself and things you're dealing with. So it's a really good way to get a clear understanding
Hmm.
of where things are as far as being in optimal range, and we're going to talk about that too. But it's going to let you know how you're holding up, depending on when you have your test done over
Hmm.
the years, to know if you're in the right zone for most of your hormones. So I thought that very helpful, very informative, but also
Hmm.
can be kind of concerning depending on how your results are.
Right. Right. Well, a lot of people are going to think that, well, I'm younger, or maybe you're in your 30s, maybe you're in your 50s, or hey, maybe you're a guy like me in your 60s or older. Uh, is there an age range? I mean, is there a certain age that you're looking to getting this done?
Yeah, that's a good question too, because what they're seeing now is guys that are younger that have some symptoms of low testosterone, low energy, and things
Hmm.
like that. They're finding out that their hormone levels aren't good. A lot of it has to do with the nutrition, stress, sleep, and alcohol, and other things that the person's doing is not beneficial to your hormone levels.
Right.
So
Right.
I would say, you know, obviously, if you're 40 and over, definitely have them checked. And now, if you
Absolutely.
don't feel the right way and you're younger than that, have them checked. Or if you just want to have them checked to see how you're holding up, then I would probably say after the age of 25, unless you're having issues before that with being overweight and low
Hmm.
energy and not feeling good, then that would be an exception. But other than that, I would say definitely after 40, because I didn't start noticing anything as far as my levels till about 45, 46.
Hmm.
It was kind of like, they weren't the same, but, by the time I was 48, I was starting to notice it more. So
Right.
that's just another thing to understand is if you don't feel right, there's a reason for it. And this is a good way to find out what's going on.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of benefits of having this done. So why don't you fill in everybody on the good news on what are the good benefits?
Okay, so to me, the benefits are once you understand where you are, then
Hmm.
you can be proactive on how to improve the levels that aren't good. So if your glucose readings are high, that's not good. You need to get that fixed. If your triglycerides are high, you need to get
Hmm.
that fixed. But then on the hormone side, if things are not in what's called optimal range, then you know that you're not where you need to be, and then
Right.
you need
Right.
to get in optimal range. So let's just talk about what optimal range is real quick.
Okay.
So for optimal range, and I'm going to use, and they can vary from high to low, but like for testosterone, you have a free testosterone and total testosterone. Okay, so as a simple example, total testosterone can range from 200. It could be nanograms per deciliter. There's different measurement systems. It could be 200 to 1200, and you are normal. Doctor looks at it, says, well, you're in normal range. Nothing needs to be discussed. So what is optimal range? So what I've learned working with a lot of medical professionals is optimal range for testosterone is typically 800 to 1000. I mean, that's optimal range. You're going to have good energy. You're going to feel good. You're going to be able to burn fat easily. You have the hormone level you need for that particular hormone. Now, for estrogen, you don't want that to be real high. You want to be that to the lower end to help make sure you got plenty of testosterone absorption, as an example. So optimal range is what you're trying to figure out with your hormone levels, and there's always going to be ranges listed with the lab results. So that's where you have a good medical professional to explain to you, okay, you're in optimal range because you're in this range here. So that's beneficial because okay, I don't need to do much for that, and I'm on target with what I'm doing with my lifestyle.
Yeah. What's funny is when I had mine done, I had no idea that I had estrogen. I thought it was just testosterone, and I was a novice. I didn't know any of this stuff, but
Exactly.
there are a lot of hormones that are actually brought up in this test. So exactly which of the hormones in this test are targeted?
Okay, good question. Now, from my perspective, working with a lot of medical professionals, what I feel the best panel to get started would be you got your free and total testosterone.
Okay.
You have your estradiol, which is your estrogen. You got pregnenolone and DHEA sulfate. DHEA stands for dehydroepiandrosterone. And these are hormone precursors that help you make the other hormones, especially testosterone and your estrogen and things like that. You have sex hormone binding globulins. Okay, this is one that helps move your hormones throughout the body. You have IGF-1, which stands for insulin growth factor 1, which is part of your growth hormone release. Then you have TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. But there's two components of that you typically want to have checked, and that's T3 and T4, because they convert to give you your energy that you need. So you need to see what those levels are to make sure they're converting properly. Then the PSA, which is a prostate-specific antigen to see if your prostate is where it needs to be. Then you have cortisol. Cortisol can be an important thing to understand when it comes to you're developing muscle and keeping your stress under control.
Right.
You don't want high cortisol levels. It's not good. Vitamin D3. Most people have no idea where they are with vitamin D3, and it's a critical element for hormones because it is also a hormone indirectly that your body needs to keep everything functioning, especially your immune system, at a high level. So those would be a great start, in my opinion.
Now, the thing that's funny, Arman, is before you and I did this, I had went to see my doctor and all that kind of stuff. And I had told you, yeah, I got my complete blood work and whatever. And I thought I did because that's what the doctor told me. Yeah. But what you and I actually found out and what you educated me with is, they didn't dig as deep as this blood work panel that you were suggesting. So why aren't doctors actually suggesting trying to provide this type of comprehensive service?
Yeah, another good question. It's really interesting and also somewhat frustrating from my perspective. As I learned about all this, is they're not trained on it. So even if they were able to check your levels, and they're going to suggest that you don't check them because they don't know how to give you the corrective protocol to fix the levels and put them back into optimal range. They can't sit there and tell you, okay, you need to do this and this to improve them. Because once you get your lab results back, you sit down, you have a conversation. Okay, well, what's going on? And they need to be able to give you a good quality conversation regarding that, but they're not trained to do that. So you need specialists at this point when it comes to this area. That's why you're not going to get good information from a general practitioner or other doctor.
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of people, when you are telling them about this panel, they may be thinking, oh my gosh, what is this? But maybe it would help if you let them know what exactly is involved when you're going to get this done.
Okay, so You're always going to have different options when it comes to getting lab work done,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to deal with different medical professionals. So you need to find the medical professional that understands how hormones work. So you want to seek that type of person out, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not all the same either. I've been through several.
Right.
So you
Right.
need to find the ones that are basically, in my opinion, at nerd status with these things,
Mm-hmm.
because once you get your lab work done, um, you need to have a conversation that what the plan of action is going to be once it's done and once it's been talked about. And
Mm-hmm.
there's typically a lot of parts to that. You got nutrition, you have supplementation, and you also have maybe hormone replacement if it validates that. But
Mm-hmm.
again, you need the right professional. Make sure you do it in a progressive manner. In other words, let's start with nutrition and supplements and see if we can improve it.
Mm-hmm.
Then if that doesn't work, then we'll look to do prescription strategies if needed. So, you also, when you go to the lab, they're going to take blood and you have a turnaround time when those lab results are going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So typically it's not within a few days because some of this blood work has to be sent out to other specialty labs like growth hormone, your insulin growth
Mm-hmm.
factor 1, et cetera. So it can be about 10 days, 7 to 10 days before you get your actual results back, which is real important to understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you're lucky, like I was, to be able to work with Arman, hey, Armin's got it going on, man. He's got it like clockwork. You get your blood work done, boom, I mean, it was a fast turnaround time. But when we got my results back, you know, there was a process. So once somebody gets these results back, what's the next step?
So it's like we talked about before. You got to make sure you're working with the right medical professional.
Mm-hmm.
And typically going to your general practitioner, your family doctor, et cetera, they may act like they know something, but what in reality is happening there is they're coached by the pharmaceutical companies on what to suggest and prescribe. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're not going to take into account your pregnenolone, your DHEA, and how high your estrogen is. In a lot of cases,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to look to just maybe prescribe testosterone, not give you any insight about supplements that you can take that can help bring
Right.
up your testosterone and do things more naturally. So you need the professional that understands both sides of the fence, how to bring it up naturally, and also if that's not working, then
Mm-hmm.
how to gradually bring up your hormones into optimal range with just a right amount. You don't want to
Right.
over medicate because that's where some guys get off track. They think more is better, and they take too much stuff, and the doctor works for them because that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about optimizing your health and getting the best results so that you can, slow down the aging process and live really healthy.
Well, and you yourself, you got your blood work done. So, exactly what happened when you did it, Armin.
So for me, what happened is I had to learn about what do all these things mean. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
research it so I better understand. And the first doctor I worked with, he was all about putting you on a prescription right out of the box. So
Oh boy.
I don't I don't recommend that, but I didn't know any better. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
how the whole process works. So as I learned more, obviously I took matters into my own hands. And I strongly suggest that for anybody else, be your own advocate when
Mm-hmm.
you go through this process. Don't accept everything they're saying. Do some research or have some other people to bounce the ideas off of. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
do with my medical teams I work with. We have a couple of them, and I bounce things back and forth off of them to make sure we got good clarity on what the steps we're going to need to take to
Mm-hmm.
help improve those levels. And it works much better that way, and you learn more about yourself because when the things are working, you start feeling better, you start getting more energy. You're like, oh, okay, sex drive if it's down, now it perks right up.
Right.
Of course, the
Right.
wife may not be happy with that. That happens with a few guys, but it is what it is. So that's kind of what happened with me.
And from the work that you had done, what would you say are the key takeaways, from you having this actual panel done for you?
So once you get a panel done, then you're going to have to recheck it to see how you're progressing and if things are
Mm-hmm.
getting in the range it needs to be in.
Right.
And what I
Right.
found is some of the doctors I first worked with are all about the prescription side of it. Now what I've learned is, I'm doing less prescription and I'm doing a lot more supplementation and I'm getting better results. But you got to find the right medical professional that can help understand that and work with you on it. Because some of them, they don't want to put any more time into it other than take these prescriptions, and then we'll just reevaluate to see how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, be your own advocate, and then learn as much as you can, but also have a resource, somebody you can bounce the ideas off of, because you're going to need to. It's not a cut and dry
Mm-hmm.
process, because everybody's levels are going to vary. Since this has happened, my sex binding hormone globulins has come up. So now I have to take nettle root to help bring it back under control, because that helps with my testosterone, helps bring out more free testosterone by doing that. And then my DHT has come up, which can cause hair loss, can cause the prostate to enlarge. So you need to know, okay, what supplements do you take to improve your DHT? Because what they'll want to recommend to you is Propecia or finasteride,
Mm-hmm.
and which initially they put me on, didn't tell me anything about the side effects, which affects your sex drive and other things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, who needs that? Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
you have this trade-off. Okay, have no sex drive or have no hair. Don't want to have sex or want to have hair. So you got to weigh these kind of options, but
Right.
also know that if you just do something naturally with supplementation, you get the best of both worlds. You can suppress the hair loss and still have good sex drive.
That's right. That's right. Now, how often should somebody have their levels checked? Because I'm assuming, like, after you've had the first panel done, how often should you go back to have another one done?
So that's going to be based on how quickly you get your levels into the right range.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
what typically happens, you need about 5 to 6 weeks for everything to start to kick in. So
Mm-hmm.
6 weeks would be the soonest. 8 weeks is a good timeline. That way you can see how you're doing. And again, you're just going to check. You don't check everything again. You just check everything that's not in optimal range, which saves you money on lab work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you want to approach it. And then once you're dialed in, then you can check it every 6 months or once a year. So
Okay.
currently I'm on like every 6 months to once a year. I've been on once a year before, but now at this point in time in my life, I like to do it every 6 months for me. But
Mm-hmm.
once you're dialed in, at the minimum, once a year, I would probably suggest twice a year.
Well, I'm sure you piqued a lot of interest in all of the folks that are watching or listening. What advice do you have for the people that are actually considering and doing the panel?
Okay, so like anything else, you need to find out who you're going to work with. You need to
Mm-hmm.
find out what's involved. So you can do research on hormone replacement clinics,
Mm-hmm.
things, different facilities like that. Uh, you know, Basically hormone related medical centers would
Mm-hmm.
be a good place to start. But don't feel like you got to jump in there and do everything that they're asking you. Just start asking questions. This is the things that I've learned. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a good resource for that too. For people that have questions, I can give you some insights on different strategies and how you want to do it. But you need to find the right medical professionals to work with, and
Mm-hmm.
don't do this on a nickel and dime budget. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
if this is something that's not in the right zone, you need to look at the strategy and whatever it takes to get the levels balanced. You just make that part of your meal budget. What you
Mm-hmm.
pay for your groceries, you put it in
Right.
that budget so that you can get to where you need to be. And then once you get to where you need to be, then you can adjust that budget based on things becoming more stable. So don't shortchange yourself looking for the cheapest alternative. I see guys do this all
Mm-hmm.
the time. Or I'll see guys want to self-medicate, which is
Mm-hmm.
stupid. And I,
Right.
I
Right.
just I just don't get that, because you need to understand what's going on, because you're going to get things way out of sync if you're just playing with stuff, just thinking, well, this is how it's going to work. Because a lot of guys do
Mm-hmm.
that. Throw
So,
me against
well,
that. So
yeah, yeah. Well, you know, this has been a tremendous thing for me because I was tired. I didn't have energy. I had a lot of issues. And when my blood work came back, I was in pretty good shape. So
mhm,
we didn't have to do a whole lot of tweaking, but we
right.
did. And wow, the supplementation that you got me on was terrific. So I can speak highly of having the actual panel done. It had great results for me, my lifestyle, energy, everything. Um, how did it work for you when you first really got on track, Armin?
Well, I would say so far so good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very proactive, and so as I kept learning more, I kept figuring out, okay, there's other ways to approach these strategies, and
Mm-hmm.
also talking to the right medical professionals who don't
Right.
mind telling you, well, here's some things that, because they work with a lot of patients, here's some
Mm-hmm.
things that have worked in the past. Let's try that. But personally, there's a lot of good things you can do to keep your hormones more balanced. with fasting, nutrition especially, and then the
Mm-hmm.
supplements. And there's good resources now, but you need to find
Mm-hmm.
the right medical professional to help with that, because once you get the lab work done, then you can get the protocol. Once you have the protocol, after that, you
Mm-hmm.
just reevaluate. How's it working? And you'll be
Right.
surprised. It can work pretty quickly. But also, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to tweak, but you're going to feel better. And you're going to slow down the aging process because things are doing what they need to do. It's going to be easier to maintain weight, because easier to maintain muscle tissue, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you're training. So a lot of benefits, in my opinion.
And the other thing too is you were talking about how that you felt if you're going to start a new training program, or even if you're in a training program now and you're not even getting the results that you want, maybe this is a prime time to go get that panel done.
Yeah, well, that's another key thing. Exactly.
So some awesome information as usual, Arman. Great job. Um, I encourage everybody to go check out NSP Nutrition. Now, if you're paying attention, you have already taken care of, because this will be out after Black Friday, but NSP has released like the floodgates on Black Friday discounts. And I'm hoping that you've taken full opportunity to order some
Yeah.
product there. But hey, you notice I got in my NSP hoodie here, and
Hmm.
you know, it's I'm an extra large. It fit perfectly, very comfortable, soft, and in Florida it's like in the 50s. It'll warm up a little bit today, but hey, I like wearing hoodies, and I would encourage everybody to check it out. So, anyway, Armin and I, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back to the NSP Nutrition Show. I'm Arman Eckelbarger.
And I am Frank Mills, and we're going to talk about the benefits of iodine. And, it's a good lead into this because we just talked about having your blood work done and how
Hmm.
things can affect you. And, iodine, we've talked about in previous shows, that it's very critically important that you have it. And so I guess that's probably how we kind of led in this other segment, Armin. But what made you decide to want to talk about iodine? Just curious.
Uh, for me, I really started learning about it like four years ago, maybe 5 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, when I was reconnecting with some of Vince's nutrition strategies. And
Okay.
you know, as I was reading it, he felt very adamant and felt it was very important to supplement with it. But his supplementation was typically kelp tablets, which are high in
Right.
iodine. And so I was like really intrigued and thought, hmm. And then, you know, I just started, after I read it, like, I need to take some iodine. So I wanted to see
Right.
how it
Right.
affected me and things like that. So,
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Well, what's really funny is the first time you brought up iodine to me, I'm an older guy, so I thought a little iodine bottles growing up, you got a scratch or whatever, you put that on it. But hey,
yeah,
it's
not the
not that.
same. Yeah.
Not the same. Okay. So why is it important? Why do we need iodine, Armin?
All right. Yeah, that's another good question. It's needed for healthy thyroid glands,
Hmm.
okay, or the gland to keep it functioning properly. And what Vince had learned is that you know, kelp was being used for controlling obesity, goiter, which is the thyroid's become inflamed and
Right,
causes
right.
all kinds of problems, poor digestion, uh, you know, controlling gas and constipation. It's related to that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
the iodine from the kelp would act on the thyroid gland, and what it does, it will normalize the gland. So if you had a hard time losing weight, then it would be
Hmm.
good because it helps people to lose weight because it increases your body core temperature, make sure it's working right. But also, if you're not gaining weight very easily, it's good for that too. So it was like an absolute win-win to make sure you get a proper amount of it so that your thyroid is working at, again, what we talked about before, an optimal level, because that means you're going to burn fat, you're going to have better energy because it helps with improving the mitochondria, and then all your other hormonal processes and the bodily processes are going to be functioning as they need to.
Mm-hmm. Well, that actually brings up something interesting, is because a lot of people don't understand or don't know what their thyroid actually does. So what are some of the functions of the thyroid?
Okay, so the thyroid secretes thyroxine, okay, and this controls and regulates the metabolism. You're going to get it helps to vitalize the cells, which is all over the body,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
enables them to uh, basically respond to sympathetic stimulation from the nervous system. It increases the power and rate of heart function, which is important. Controls coagulation, which time for your blood clotting. It keeps
Mm-hmm.
that where it needs to be, so you don't bleed to death, so to speak, if you get cut. It
Right.
increases urea and fluid secretion, so it helps that to stay steady. So you're getting rid of toxins, which is
Mm-hmm.
important. Controls and regulates body fat, which who wouldn't want that? And then aids in the function of the pancreas and acts in conjunction to the pituitary gland, along with a little bit more than that as well. So it's a very important element to have in your body so your thyroid's functioning at a good level and gets things done the right way. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
underestimate something like that, because if it functions right, you're gonna have good energy. You're gonna feel good. You keep your weight under control. You,
Mm-hmm.
it's a nice win-win in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, as I was a young man growing up, my dad had major thyroid problems. So,
Yeah.
man, I wish he would have known about iodine back then. Is iodine something that actually is in your supplementation program right now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Since I read about it, I was taking it, and I have a thyroid condition, so I have to take Armor to make my thyroid function at an optimal level as well, because
Mm-hmm.
it's my glands slowly not performing well, and that's a whole nother discussion because
Mm-hmm.
Armor is a naturally desiccated prescription medication versus doing the synthetic type of uh, thyroid prescriptions like
Right.
Synthroid and those different ones like that that are they're synthetic designs.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of coached by the medical professionals I work with in that particular case to start with the natural one first, and then when that stops
Mm-hmm.
working, then go to the synthetic. And it's worked out really well for me. But a lot of
Gotcha.
doctors want to put you on the synthetic right away. So
Mm-hmm.
even with them taking Armor, I still take my iodine, and I felt it's worked very well for me. The iodine I get from NSP, and that's who I started taking iodine from day one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thing that's interesting about this is, I didn't know that your thyroid was so critically important to so many functions of your body, which, it's almost mind blowing how important, because you really don't hear the thyroid like you'd hear about the importance of a heart or your liver or your kidney, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of curious, what are some of the benefits of taking iodine, and how it'll actually help your thyroid?
Well, like with Vince, you need to have a really well working metabolism if you want to get rid of body fat, improve your muscle tone, and have
Mm-hmm.
good energy. So it's going to really improve a sluggish metabolism, which can happen from poor nutrition, lack of sleep,
Right,
all these
right.
other things that start to add up on you. And so it's going to help in, help them burn body fat. It's going to improve your energy levels because it's going to improve the mitochondria, which is important for that. And then, the different functions we mentioned earlier, so that that gland works at a healthy level, so that you got good energy, you feel great, because that's really an important element to your day to day.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Well, that's some good stuff. Just like anything else, though, I was just kind of curious. Is there anyone that should not take iodine? Is there any reason that you shouldn't take it?
Okay, so in a nutshell, if you have an overactive thyroid or you
Mm,
have a condition with your thyroid, obviously check with the right medical professional. If
right.
you don't
Right.
get the answer you're looking for, do a little more research and maybe
Mm-hmm.
check with another medical professional, and then you can decide from there. Um, but that's what I did as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the armor. I say, hey, I'm going to take some iodine. Is that a big deal? I'm like, no, actually, that should help. And that's what I've done. So for me, I just take one iodine after breakfast in the morning, which is 12
Mm-hmm.
and a half milligrams of elemental iodine. Another thing about
Okay.
iodine, it's not all the same. You want elemental iodine. That's what NSP provides, or Kelp tablets. You can use those
Mm-hmm.
too. So
Okay.
that's what you need. But even when I was getting ready, when I was doing competition for the, that 6 week training period, I
Mm-hmm.
would even double my iodine intake, which I felt also helped with me leaning out. I just didn't do it long term
Right.
because I don't
Right.
think anything needs to be done long term with that. But I
Mm-hmm.
found that by taking the one tablet a day, it's helped my energy and my fat burning process and keep me lean the way I like to be, just naturally outside of the prescription I'm taking.
Nice. And, like Armin said, those iodine tablets are on nspnutrition.com and they work great. So, Armin, anything else you have, to wrap up?
Okay, just in a nutshell, you can either take iodine tablets like from NSP Nutrition because that's a
Mm-hmm.
simple way of doing it, and see how you respond to it. One's typically enough, or if
Mm-hmm.
you want, you don't want to do that, then take some
Right.
kelp tablets and try those out. But I think it's really if you're training and you want to
Mm-hmm.
get better results, I think it's pretty critical that you do that. So.
Awesome. Well, it's some great information as usual. You always come through with something interesting. It's always well planned and a lot of research. Of course, you've been doing it a long time, so you know what you're talking about, right?
Well, hey, no one has a lock on the good ideas. I'm just trying to, I'm actually relating what happened to me and a lot of the stuff we're doing because
Right.
that's what I know, how it happened
That's
to me
right.
because nothing's ever perfect. So,
Well, as usual, I'm sure everybody appreciates your hard work and all the information. So thanks again for a great show.
no problem. I'm looking forward to doing it again next week, and hopefully, everybody got some takeaways from this. If you have additional questions, give us some comments. Let us know some other topics you'd like to learn more about, and see if we can accommodate that. And please like, subscribe, and share with other people so we can build this channel and get more input and maybe make your life a little easier.
Absolutely. And, if you're looking for that information, we have now posted it. It's on the NSP Nutrition website. If you look on the
Yep.
menu, you'll see the NSP Nutrition Show. And
Hmm.
it has the links to YouTube, all the podcast apps. The only one that we're waiting for right now, as of today, and hopefully by the time the show's released, it'll be out, is Apple Podcasts. It's in the process, it's been approved. We're just waiting for the link. So you can play or listen on your favorite podcast app on YouTube. Now, again, if you have a comment, suggestion for a show, any input, whatever, you can actually leave it in the comment section on YouTube, but you can also email NSP Nutrition, and that email is
Yeah. Hmm.
support@nspnutrition.com. So we appreciate your support. Thanks for joining Armin and I today, and check back next week for a new episode of the NSP Nutrition Show.
All right. Hey, thanks for checking out the NSP Show. Go to nspnutrition.com where you can find a whole heap of resources to help you achieve stunning definition and eye-popping levels of muscularity. Don't forget you can save 10% on your first order by using the code NSP Show at the checkout. Catch you next time.